Here you can see one, two, I think there's 3 wolves there, and another one in the background there somewhere. There's 1, 2, 3. I thought there was 4 in there. Oh, I'm getting old, what the hell. Hey?
Yeah, I think that's Gordy there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Gordy Clausen there. Yeah. Trail sets. Cross lines, trails along ridges, creek banks, snares, straight lines, power ramps, all those things can work. Here you can see snare, it's on nice and high up there on the head. And that can make a big difference. And like Duncan was saying, it's a different when you're hanging a snare on the flat than when you are when the wolf is going uphill or downhill. Usually when a wolf is going uphill, his nose is closer to the ground than it is when he's going downhill, right? So those are things that you need to take into consideration when you're setting your snares, right? So some wolves will, for some reason, will run right down the middle of your snowmobile track like that. Yet some of them will not walk on the middle, but they'll run right down the ski trail. So watch on how that's working out, what they're doing, and that'll help you pick up on where to set your traps as well. There's a power ramp. They have their pros and cons. There's a lot of steel to pack around there. They're dangerous to set. I won't set them. They'll flip me right over if I try to set my little wolf. And game trails, you have to consider it as well. It's not so bad if you don't have a lot of people around, but if somebody gets smacked in the side of the head with one of those things there, you might have a liability on your hands. Roads, power lines, pipelines, and trails. You can deliberately make trails that are zigzagged or a little bit out of sight. I noticed on my trap line there for a while, they wanted me to set my trapping trails. So I put a sign up there, trapping trail only. Guess what? Everybody and their dog would go for a walk up that trapping trail only, right? And so I made some signs. We put them up a little higher on just when you get through the gate. I used to put the signs right on the gates when you went through the gate. They would get ripped off. Sometimes they wouldn't even last a week there. So now I just wrap some trapping ribbon around their active trap line, and if they rip it down, they rip it down. If they don't, and I always take a picture of that so that I can go and tell the fish and wildlife and the biologist, here's the date that I put that ribbon up there, and this is exactly how long it lasted. Winter trap sets. Becoming good with foothold is a huge part of professional trapping trade. Up north, it's so much easier than down south here. I couldn't believe it. I took a trapping course up in Lac La Biche, and we were up just east of Conklin, and we set leg hole traps up there. Man, 3 weeks in a row, you didn't have to worry about them. They still fire.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get that down south in Alberta here. But it allows you so many opportunities to expand on your takes, and it's more target specific. You can set your pans, you can set where you're putting your traps a little bit better, and lots of times they'll work where places where snares won't work. And like I said, lots of times if you have wolves that are educated to snares, just pull your snares down, let them go into those baits, and when you see they're going into them baits, drop a few leg holes in there. A wolf will, if there's a log like this here, when a wolf steps over it, he'll always step real close. So make sure that your draw is really close to the log when it fires up. there you can see them traveling down the snowmobile track. You take note at the footprints here, you see how just these tiny little pieces of grass sticking up or brush sticking up can guide their feet, right? You can guide their feet really well that way, and it's the same thing when you're making snares and that. All you need is one little rose bush to go underneath that bottom of that snare to make a chin lift for them to lift their head and have a proper placement of the head into the snare. Equipment, good equipment makes a difference. Notebooks are good. Good solid drags. I will never use another log for a drag. Twice I had a wolf caught, and he chewed right off, right near the center of the log, and so all this pieces is drags right behind him. And then you try to catch the damn thing. So all my drags are metal drags now. I won't do that sort of thing anymore.
Top on the laser. Even too with these, sometimes these logs will catch a tree and do like a weird jump, and then they get a wrap in a bind and they stop working properly. So I just avoid them entirely. If you're investing in trapping, you're already kind of into it. You might as well invest the drag too. It's just worth it, and it saves you all the heartache.
Just a piece of steel pipe.
I would not do a pipe. No, I'd do a proper drag. So I don't.
Oh yeah, thanks.
This is this would be like I would use this on a coyote. But the key with it is you want them offset, those tips. So if it's sliding on the ground, it's catching in. If they're flat, they'll skim along the ground. And if they're skimming, they can go for a long ways. So
Probably a boat anchor would work too, eh?
pending the type of anchor in that, it could. But I think your overall weight to number of anchors ratio is going to be not good if you're doing both.
Yeah, that's heavier.
Yeah, it's just because you're using like cast metals there.
Yeah.
This is just them setting up different anchors again. I'm not a fan of the log one. I'm like Ken. What I do like is that they're setting up the drag. They're throwing it away, so they're setting off of their sleigh. They're going to be setting on their own trail here, but they're getting the anchor away. You don't need to have the anchor close to the trap. The more distance you have, I think actually the better, because it's just set up to start operating as expected. If they have to pull it all out of a ball, I mean, you risk that ball freezing or skipping or, short stroking for a few. Just leave it out. Extend your, stick it in the ground. Start the drag process if you want. There's no rule that says you have to have it all packed away. Just the only thing that's got to be stable and in the right place is the trap. Here's your anchor set up there. Again, they're just getting it all prepped. Now, what I do like is they're setting up the trap here to get going. The only thing, now, this is kind of my style. Not everyone does it. If I'm ever trapping in the winter and I have a developed trail of any kind, I don't hollow from the top. What I do is I would actually dig out the side and then go in from the side that way. And all I do is take this trowel and I would cut out all four sides and cut out a hole in this trail. And then from the side, take a big shovel, hollow that out, and then hollow about that far under this crust, straight in till I hit my hole. I line my pan with there, and then I just tuck everything in. And now it's no muss, no fuss. The whole thing I put in one of those little plastic baggies. I just plastic baggie, stuff it in, walk away. It's as simple as could possibly be. And the whole thing is bedded by having this trail here. You have your place for the foot with your carve out, and the trap will blow up out of this because it itself isn't frozen underneath, and it's just going to bust out of that shell. If you're on a really hard packed skidoo trail, you gotta be shallower on that. But you just gotta go as deep as you need to so they don't break the crust and feel the trap. And if you're doing like a piss post where it's just fluffy snow and holes, same concept. Go find one they've already done and just shovel out beside their already made track and just go in under the bottom of their print.
Sorry, Duncan, what are you putting in your baggie? The trappings in
The trap.
baggie?
Just go get those, make sure it's scentless, white baggie. Just put it in, stuff the whole thing in the hole. Done, walk away.
So you're not using wax paper over
Don't
each
need any of it.
top and bottom?
Don't need it.
You
Bag
put-
does all of it.
you
yeah.
just put the trap inside the bag.
Just stuff the bag, yeah. And make sure it's just a cheap crap baggie and the trap will blow it up every time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it works super easy.
Too bad they don't give them to you at the stores anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, just go to the dollar store. You get a roll of 50 for a few dollars. Cheap is perfect. You don't want good quality. You want them ripping and broken. And they work easy. And in the winter, that's my preferred way. The moment you don't have a track to set on, now we're talking, wax sand or whatever else to bed it in and not have it freeze. That's where the real challenge comes in. And I have a big flathead shovel. I would take this fluffy stuff right here and scoop it where I'm not breaking the fluffiness of the snow. I'm just lifting it out, and that's what Gordy will be doing here with some wax snow too, and very gently just laying that over top of the trap, keeping that insulation in the snow so it doesn't freeze down. That's the big thing that's going to get you in the wintertime is your trap freezing in. And the more you can use a pre-existing shell and frame, the better, because the freeze won't go below that point. So if you've got a track and trail, we're looking sideways into a track now. If an animal stepped in, they went down this far, and then this is all packed snow under here. Does that make sense to everybody? We're looking side profile. So I'm going to come in from the side. I want to know where this point is, get just below it, and that's where I want to hit. This will now be hollow underneath there. So now my trap will just be sitting right there. Above it is hard snow. Below it, it's hollow. The trap cannot freeze in. That's why I love this method. You just stuff it in there and walk away. From above, the animal is absolutely stepping here. There's just, a couple centimeters of that snow between them and the pan, which won't hold, and they'll push right on the pan and fire, and it's got them every time.
So you dug that out from the side.
Exactly.
Tunneled in.
Dig it out from the side, tunnel in, and now this can all freeze right in. Don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Toss your chain up to the side, lay it through, get your trap in, and then just backfill, walk away. Backfill every step in. It's just like nothing was there.
Mm-hmm.
And the only part that needs to not be frozen is right there, and that's the part we hollowed out and entered in.
Are you doing all that from your skidoo sled?
You can do it from a skidoo, you can do it walking in or whatever. It really doesn't matter. It just depends on like the reason he's setting his trail here is because these wolves are kind of smart but are running the trail. And he's just trying to do don't give them anything to work with, for the ones you don't catch either. Trying to be very low key, sneaky set. And it's a great set. The wax paper does work, but literally the plastic baggies are just easy and they do the job.
And you don't care which direction those springs are going, whether they're...
I do. If they're traveling directionally and they're just traveling through, you do want that dog to the side because you've got less control over that step, and pending the rate of speed, they may be off a little one way or the other, north to south. But typically, east-west, if you're in line, you're in line. And you don't want them stepping on that dog and blowing up. If I've got them working a set, like they're coming into it, and I know how they're coming in and they're going to be spending some time there, then I do actually like to rotate it, and I'll have the dog opposite their approach or their most likely approach. So if the dog's here, I'm anticipating them coming from this direction. And that's just to get a jaw strike aligned with the direction of the bones in the foot, just to get it off in a good way.
So if it's dogless, you would put it the opposite of what that is?
No, I would still try and do it to the side, only because, again, the line they approach is more consistent than the when and where they take their first step into it, pending their timidness. So the north-south where they step could be a few inches off either way. And this, the slider here extends out further profile than the jaw. So if they short step your trap a little bit, don't quite get on the pane or whatever, I just don't want them standing out here potentially moving the trap around or that more. I just want them on clean dirt as much as I can help it. That's my theory on dingoes. I find I'm pretty good about left to right where they're going to be. It's just when that step takes place and where they stop, it can be a few inches either way, typically.
If you're sliding in from the side, how you stabilize it?
The snow does all the stabilizing. Don't clean it out. Just have above the frame barely just barely a hollow, like a half centimeter. Underneath it, you want lots of snow in there. Stuff snow in there, like disturb it, get it loose, so it's not going to like push your trap around. All of that loose stuff will freeze in place, and that trap will be stable within a couple hours. Right? It's just above the trap, we don't want to disturb. Below the trap, we do want to disturb because that's going to be building our frozen frame the trap sits in.
So you're not worried about the trap freezing to the disturbed snow?
No, particularly because I'm using the plastic as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got that.
Now, the only thing you want to watch with the plastic is you got to tuck it around the jaws. I'll show you when we pull one out here tomorrow, so that there's not like a place for water to pool in the bag next to the pan. You just want plastic and then like kind of taut going around to the jaws, and you're golden. So I just choke up. I have the whole bag choked up with the drag and everything right in my hand. The bag and all that's taut, so when I stuff it in, it's all taut and just sort of slid right in, and then jam some snow there so it's stuck in place and walk away.
And you're not
It's
worried
so simple.
It's my snow track being too froze. The wolf's gonna break that to push the pan off.
Yeah, and it won't be because, and now you just have to make sure that when you're going in, you're not way down here if you've got lots of snow, right? So it's still that no difference than if it was just dirt. But you could literally, if realistically, you could even just have just your pan there with the bag if it's white, and you'll probably get them if you're in a deep rut of snow, right? You really don't need much here at all. It's just make sure, like if it's 3 or 4 feet of snow everywhere else, they're stepping in this hole. Make no mistake. So as long as you're decented and you've got your pan at the bottom of that hole, you're getting.
That hole you're referring to, is that the whole footprint? Or?
That's a previously made footprint,
Oh, okay.
or one you can even make yourself.
Not just the bottom of the snowmobile track.
Well, it could be certainly if it were a
Yeah, if they're
snowmobile
right on
track.
top of it, eh?
Rather than it being a void like this, it's just going to be a flat shelf
Yeah.
that I would only hollow around the trap to make slightly lower, like a place they could step again. Like I'm going to dress that, but I'll still hollow from the side and go under.
You would hollow for a place for them to step in. That's where they would want.
They
to step
typically
in?
step in the low point and the smooth point.
Oh,
So the snowmobile is going to be kind of ripply everywhere.
yeah.
I would take that post and even make a couple, like a step prior to the trap either way,
Yeah.
Make
Just
sure
to
it look
space
pretty,
them out, eh?
right? And then I would just, with my brush, kind of taper this down. So it kind of goes more like that. And then my trap's right down here. And this, I would just give a very light dusting or place of fluffy snow and then just brush it to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is more or less just smooth looking clean snow with a slight divot where my trap is. And then you can do a little bit of grass or like, the grass they saw in there, just some very subtle guides. That's all you got to do. But the key is like most of trapping is a foothold in the winter is if you approach from the top down, you have to recover it, right? And that's the hard part is trying to do that without freezing the bloody thing in afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
because everything you disturb wants to freeze.
Yeah.
So that's why I just don't like to touch the top. Try to come in from the side. And that kind of takes all the hard work out of it.
Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. click like. It all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.